So I'm going to be honest with y'all and tell you that when I see one of Danny Masterson's accusers going on Instagram and threatening Ashton Kutcher, and thanks to Jessica Krause, House and Habit, for bringing this up. But when I see one of Danny Masterson's accusers going on Instagram and threatening Ashton Kutcher because Ashton Kutcher wrote a letter to the judge, a character reference for his lifelong friend, which is a totally okay thing to do, and might I add, not only an okay thing to do, but an honorable thing to do, and one that took some guts, because it was inevitable. It was inevitable that the stupid LADA's office would leak the letters of Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis, and they would be public, and then there would be this whole tidal wave of, oh my god, Ashton Kutcher's defending a rapist! Cancel him, burn him, stone them! Inevitable. Fucking LADA leaking that shit. That's what I think. But it was inevitable. It was inevitable. And yet, knowing that, Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis chose to go ahead and write those letters, which were brave and frankly kind of beautiful. And honestly, I'm going to be honest with you, it gave me pause, because they describe a completely different person than what these accusers and the media have described. And I understand, look, I get that people can have two completely different sides, or many different sides, and can be a kind of a Jekyll and Hyde situation. I get that. But those meaningful character references, they don't mean nothing. They do mean something. They mean that this guy may not be the caricature that has been depicted to us. And look, I've been saying for the last few days, I have not been following this Danny Masterson thing. I have not, because I don't have time to follow every fucking celebrity Me Too case, because there's like 5 billion of them now. It's an epidemic, and some may be legit. Many, I think, probably most these days are not. But I have not been following this Masterson thing because I didn't have time. And so I've just been reading the little bit that most of you read, the dribble of news coming out of the media. And I've been seeing, oh, well, this time, the last trial ended in a mistrial, and this time, this one, he got a guilty verdict on 2 counts. They threw out 1 count, right? But or the jury ruled against them on 1 count, one of the accusers. But 2 of them stayed in, and they got a guilty verdict. And people were telling me that's because this time there was all of this evidence, Scientology evidence and papers and court and records from Scientology about what happened and how, in the aftermath of Danny Masterson raping these women and them coming to the church and the church covering it up and all this. We've got all these records of meetings and Danny Masterson's Scientology therapy or whatever. And then also I'm told that there are witnesses, former Scientologists, who are able to testify to stuff. So I'm thinking, okay, the guy must be guilty then. That sounds like a lot. That sounds like a lot to me. I understand in these rape cases, these he said, she said cases, that we often don't have any evidence. So you're telling me that there are documents that were entered into court that show that Scientologists, like the church, basically knew that he had raped these women and he didn't even really deny it, and he was getting treatment for it and they were trying to cover it up. Yeah, okay, it sounds like he raped those women. Except I still haven't seen any of this evidence. I went and I spent like a couple of hours the other night going through different New York Times and different articles about all of this, and actually typing in, looking for Scientology evidence entered into court, Googling that, and when you know what I kept finding? Every single article that talks about this supposed evidence, all they reference is the accuser's statements that this is what happened. And so I guess I need to look deeper. I have asked for people to show me, I've commented on Instagram and on Twitter, hey, can someone just give me a link to these documents, or give me a link to a news source explaining how these documents were entered into evidence? And I just haven't gotten it yet. So I guess I need to keep looking. And so it very well may be that when I finally get to the end of the rainbow here and I can read something that tells me that there was some other kind of evidence in this case other than just the accuser's statements, legit evidence, then I guess at that point then I can be like, okay, yeah, so my original feeling turned out to be true. He's probably guilty, or he is guilty. But I'm not there yet, and I just want to say that when I look at Chrissy Carnell Bixler, whatever her name is, when I look at her Instagram and I see that she is attacking Ashton Kutcher, and that she, for just writing a character reference for his friend. Ashton in the letter didn't even say that his friend was innocent. In fact, he said, I understand that there are victims here who are aggrieved, and something is horrible they say has happened to them or whatever. And he said, I'm not here to basically, he said, I'm not here to comment on that. He was just offering a character reference, which is totally allowed, and that is a part of our system, because they want to, when these judges hand down sentences, they want to have a wider perspective on who these people are. And as it was, he got a long sentence, 30 years. 30 years of hell is in front of this man. And I'm not even talking about the jokes that people make about the prison showers and stuff, which aren't fucking funny. People getting raped in prison, that is not fucking funny. It's not. But this man has lost the rest of his life, basically, because he'll be an older man when he gets out. He's lost the rest of his life, and maybe it was justified. Maybe he was a horrible predator. Maybe he was. So we will see. I'm going to look into it now this week. But I'm just saying that when I look at the Accuser's Instagram and I see that she's posting the same bullshit that they always post. And look, I'm going to tell you something else. I read the statements of his quote-unquote victims, or the accusers. I read the statements that they entered into the court record, because when these other statements were leaked, Ashton and Mila's statements, or letters, also in the same article, it had the statements of these of the victims, and that were read at sentencing, which the judge also took into great account. And even if let's say that these women were raped and something horrible happened to them, those statements were just, there were parts of it that were just so obviously ridiculous, and frankly that indicate to me some personality disorders. I hate to say it, but I mean, I just got to be honest. And so anyway, I am at a point now, I didn't even want to get into this, because look, I am in a bind with this Me Too shit. Because the more men that I defend, then the less credible I look. You realize that, right? That every time I defend another man, I become less credible. Because people simply cannot believe, they cannot entertain the possibility that we might have entered this new media age of misinformation and hysteria, coinciding with an emergence of a sexual panic like we probably haven't seen since, the colonial era. People can't comprehend that we could have some kind of a perfect storm here of insanity, where we would just have a lot of cases of men being targeted like this with not really any evidence. People just can't comprehend that. And so what happens is, every time that I defend another man that I think is either innocent, or that I think, or at least in situations where I see some issues and I want to go, hey, let's take a look at this, every time I do that, I lose credibility. Because people assume, oh, she thinks everyone's innocent. Everybody's innocent to her. She just defends everyone. Misogynist. Blah, 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 blah. And I understand I just have to put up with that. But it also makes me leery. Like, every time, train of thought here, I am out and about. But I saw that on the Instagram, on her Instagram. Chrissy Cornell Bixler's Instagram. This whining and this threatening about Ashton Kutcher, and I just thought, this woman seems like she has some big problems that have nothing to do with Danny Masterson. And so, look, I hope to God the guy is guilty, because if I find out that this guy may not be guilty, or that there are serious problems with, don't you like that song in the background? There are serious problems with his with the allegations against him. If I find that out, I'm going to be super, super depressed and pissed about that, because what a travesty of injustice, a travesty of justice, but a real injustice has been done, if that's true. So I hope not. I hope the guy is guilty as hell. But Chrissy Cornell Bixler, or whatever the fuck her name is, and I don't even know who she is. I didn't know she was before this. This is her big claim to fame, apparently, like it is with so many of these accusers. Her husband posting about it, the has-been from the Mars Volta. Anyway, whatever. I'm not here to deride these people, except when I see that she is attacking Ashton Kutcher for an act of conscience, and frankly something that I thought was very brave, and it surprised me that he and Mila Kunis have those kinds of guts, because most people do not. And let me just tell you that in most of these Me Too situations, the friends and the supporters and everybody, they flee, and they go run for the nearest rock, and they don't say anything on behalf of the accused. So I'm just going to keep ranting here in the street. People are going to think that I'm a homeless person. But just go look at her. Go look at Chrissy Cornell Bixler's Instagram stories and tell me if you think that is someone who seems credible to you. You tell me. All right? You tell me.